What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, your favourite football fan channel dedicated to Manchester United, made in Manchester. And Erik Ten Hag has been speaking to the press today. He's spoken about Marcus Rashford and his form. Spoke about Mason Mount. There's a couple of interesting questions on that, which I really want to dive into. He spoke about Johnny Evans, who is out for the game and potentially out for his international team as well, due to the injury in the last game. And then his other few bits about Luton, certain records, etc., etc., etc. So let's just dive straight into the quotes. I'm going to start off with the Marcus Rashford one. I got asked about his form recently, having only scored. Excuse me, I've got a big burp. Oh, you just feel that gassy, like. There we go. He was speaking about Marcus Rashford's form, and from the stats that we've seen, he's only got 2 goals in 6 months. Just hasn't been himself. Feels like the Marcus Rashford again, how he was back in under Ollie in 2021. Just depleted confidence, not making the right decisions. Seems to be a shadow of himself. And Marcus seems to do these things. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but he is a proper purple patch player. It's just as simple as that. He is. It would not surprise me if the second half of the season, he turned it on and started scoring loads of goals again. It really, really wouldn't. But on Marcus Rashford, Ten Hag says he's not happy. We're not happy. He has high expectations from himself. At the moment, he is not in his best form, but I know he will be back. And he seems to be putting a lot of confidence in Marcus, whether that's, I know some people might call it blind confidence. Some people might call it naive or whatever it was. But he kind of had a similar stance last season. Because if you remember, prior to the World Cup, he wasn't in glittering form. He looked okay. But after the World Cup, after they came back, that's when he really kicked on. And I don't know if he's kind of hoping for the same result. He's probably thinking, well, eventually it will happen. But then the thing is, Erik, if you keep sticking with this player and he doesn't return, and let's say he continues like this for the rest of the season, results matter, trophies matter, position in the table matter, and you've kind of put your faith in this person. Like I said, it wouldn't fucking surprise me. My mic's on mute, is it? 1 second. Why the fuck's my mic on mute? Huh? Mute? Imagine waffling. There we go. Hopefully that's better. Sorry for people in YouTube, just people on TikTok. Let me know if you can hear anything. Yes? No? Can people on YouTube hear? There we go. Sorted. Right, so I've just been rambling about Marcus Rashford for ages and his form, and yeah, people couldn't hear a fucking thing on TikTok, so that's a little bit disappointing. Anyway, speaking about Marcus Rashford, Ten Hag said he is not happy. We're not happy. He has high expectations from himself at the moment, but he is not in his best form. I know he'll be back. I was discussing how he's kind of putting a little bit of blind faith in him, hoping he can repay that faith. But I did think one thing that I'd taken out of the Copenhagen game was the fact that I thought that front three looked better. And everyone had been calling for Anthony to be dropped for ages, because Anthony still has yet to get a goal or a single assist in the season. And when you look at someone like a Jeremy Doku who's coming at Manchester City and he's just absolutely murking people left, right, centre, and he's exciting. I think he's got like 5 assists and 2 goals in 6 starts. Like, he looks a real prospect and costs half the money that Anthony did. So rightfully so, people are screaming from the hills that Anthony should be dropped. He dropped Anthony. And I think the front three looked more balanced. I don't know if people agree. I know some people don't like Marcus Rashford on the right-hand side, but I would prefer Marcus on the right than Anthony. I'm not just saying that. And thank God he's actually dropped Anthony. That's the main thing. People, there was questions of favouritism and things like this, which I completely understand. So, yeah, Marcus Rashford isn't in the form that we want him to be in, like he was last season, 30 goals in all comps. But hopefully he'll come into that. And you would expect playing someone like a Luton Town tomorrow, which I'll be at the game. Hopefully we put on a bit of a stellar display. You want your 3-0s, your 4-0s in these kind of games. But judging how the season has gone so far, I don't think it'll play out like that. Erik Ten Hag also got asked about Mason Mount and his view on him. Has it changed on him as a player? He says it hasn't changed at all. He started the season and then got injured. It's the worst moment for a new player because it stops the integration process. That was definitely a setback for us all and for him. He had some starts also recently last week against Newcastle, but there are always reasons, and sometimes like the injury at the start of the season and other players doing well, then you have to wait for your time to play. Now, Mason Mount is a very interesting one, because why push so hard for a player and demand him for as your priority? It was the first signing, 55 million plus 5 in add-ons, a bit of a saga ongoing. Really, really push for this player, and then you're not even starting him in games. I think Ten Hag thought Casemiro, Mount, and Bruno Fernandes would work, and judging from the first 3, 4, 5 games, it just no. way too open, way too exposed. Casemiro had too much to deal with, and it didn't work. Then the issue is with that, Mount's an attacking player. He's just made Bruno captain, so he's never going to drop him. So then where do you play him? Where you try shoehorn him in on the right-hand side? Doesn't seem to rate him on the right, even though he was really good for Chelsea. Don't want to play him on the left. Brought him on as a striker against Copenhagen the other day, which people were just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? So I don't know. Mason Mount's a bit of an odd one, to be honest. I like him as a player. I know a lot of people don't. He seems to have become this scapegoat over like the course of 2 months. I think he would be an important cog in a system if the system was settled and if the environment was settled. But as we know with Manchester United, it's fucking chaos, absolute chaotic at the moment. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that. If he's suggesting that it's because of the injury and he's not had a proper chance to integrate, it was like, right, well, okay, maybe you can have a little bit of time on that. But yeah, it's we're not going to wait forever for this Mount signing to click. We need to see something. We need results on the pitch as well. And I actually think that's one of the reasons why he's probably dropped him, because we weren't getting results with him in the team. As soon as you go to revert to Eriksen, McTominay, and Bruno, which that midfield in itself is just shocking. But that looks the most balanced. Eriksen, the conductor, controlling the game a little bit more, a product of the Ajax academy. McTominay, because of his run of form, scoring goals, arriving late in the box, can offer something there. And then Bruno's always going to play because it's Bruno Fernandes and he's the captain. So I get certain decisions to a certain extent, but it is what it is. Speaking about picking individuals, Johnny Evans will miss the game against Luton Town tomorrow through injury. And he said, I can't say if he'll go away with Northern Ireland as we don't have the full finished assessment. Obviously, he went off in the 16th minute against Copenhagen. Rafael Varane came on, looked frosty as fuck, like just didn't look interested, didn't even really acknowledge the manager, and then made a huge mistake, which kind of led to their fourth goal, I think it was, where he gets past to him in space. I spoke about this on pros and cons. Gets past to him in space, and instead of just controlling it, playing out from the back or going to your wing back or going back to the keeper, he just kind of lunges at it. It goes up in the air, and then Copenhagen regain possession. There's a few patterns of play, and then they go on and score. So he's out of form at the minute. The manager don't want to pick him. He don't want to play. It seems like we were speaking to James last night from the Muppeteers, who's very well clued up on transfers and things going on behind the scenes. And he said it looks like Varane's probably going to head out the door, maybe January, maybe in the summer, along with Casemiro as well, which I was very surprised at. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff ongoing behind closed doors at the moment, especially this Jim Ratcliffe thing that's set to be announced during the international break. And we will have a video on that on Ineos and their 10-step plan, what they want to do with Manchester United or what we believe they want to do. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe if there's a little bit of time towards the end, we'll discuss it in a bit more depth. But on Luton Town, he says, I think they've had some good performances and results. We're aware of that, and there's no easy games in the Premier League. You must be at your best, and we have to be 100% focused to win. Big up to Jay in the chat, just seeing that comment there. Big up to yourself, mate. Saying 10 and on 9 defeats as well so far. It says it's about the end result, and we have to win every game, so we are very disappointed. Finally, it's about the end result, and it's always about a process, thinking about it, and then managing the process, which is what I focus on. And now, people may disagree with this. I saw encouraging things from the performance against Copenhagen. I thought it was probably the best we've looked, aside from the game against Crystal Palace. But then you look at that game against Crystal Palace, Roy Hodgson fucking changed about what? The full team. It was Crystal Palace's B team. So at Old Trafford, you should be dominating them. Apart from that performance, Copenhagen, the first 42 minutes, was it, until Rashford got sent off? I thought we looked decent. I thought we, controlling it, 2 goals up, light work, and then that obviously red card just completely turns the game on its head. And then you have to question the mentality after that. We've seen this before when United's players just drop the heads like that. As soon as there's any form of, grit or grain going against us or a decision or an offside or whatever it is, our heads just completely drop. We haven't got the mentality. We're like leaders in that team at the minute. When you look at the characters, look, Bruno Fernandes is fantastic, but then, the rest is no Lissandro in there. There's no Casemiro. Varane's obviously a huge influence, but he's having issues with the thing at the minute. De Gea's gone. There's no spine. There's no spine in the team at all, and that's the worrying thing. When the going gets tough, we absolutely brick it. We absolutely brick it, and that's been a huge issue with Manchester United at the moment. So, look, you're playing Luton Town tomorrow. Like I said, I'll be at the game. I'm hoping to see a good performance. I'm not just talking like a scrappy 1-0 win where Bruno scores near the end like the Fulham game. I'm talking like a dominant performance where you show that the quality that you've got on the pitch is far more superior than Luton Town's quality. And it's going to be players in Luton Town like Chong and Teddy Mengi going to, wanting to prove a point. I think Chong scored the goal against Liverpool, didn't he, last week, which we'll discuss later on the preview, which is at 5 o'clock, by the way. So make sure you come and tune in for that. I appreciate it's Friday night. So, yeah, if you haven't got the time, you haven't got the time. But make sure you do come and join us. And, yeah, I think that's a game we should be winning at Old Trafford every single day of the week, no question. I'm going to dive into some comments. What's Jay saying? We were cruising before the red. Exactly, Jay. Ten Hag out, says Ripper the 2-stroke. Okay. Nice Manchester accent. I don't know if that's sarcasm, but I definitely am from Manchester, so okay. Said that at the start of the season. Need to start Palestra, also give Mainu a start of minutes. Well, Mainu is in the team. Kobe Mainu's in the team. So whether that means he gets minutes or not, I don't know, because I think he was in the team. Was it the Copenhagen game or the game before on the bench? Can't remember. It might have been Newcastle. He was on the bench then, but obviously didn't get any minutes. And then he's been playing with like the under-19s, under-21s. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think he doesn't want to rush him in, especially in an environment like this. You don't want to be like, right, we're kind of relying on you, kid. You know what I mean? Similar to what what Rasmus is doing now, really. He needs an experienced striker alongside him to kind of, take the pressure off, take the weight off a little bit. Because when you ask a 20-year-old kid as talented as he is to come in, be that focal point, your number 9, obviously they spent huge money on him. It's a big ask, isn't it? It's a big ask. Whereas if you have an experienced striker alongside you, and don't chat to me about Anthony Martial or any of that shit. When you have an experienced striker alongside you, it's much easier, and the integration is much easier. But we're asking a lot of players at the moment. So, yeah. The kids should beat Luton. Exactly, our second string team. But the reality is they have just drew with Liverpool. And as much as we hate Liverpool, they are a good team. So they'll be up for it. They'll have awkward set pieces. They'll try hit us on the counter attack. They will look to do everything, and they'll really enjoy this trip. They haven't been at Old Trafford since like 1800s, I think, or something ridiculous. I think I heard last night listening to Andy Mitten. So yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting game, because if Ten Hag loses this, I don't think they'll get rid of him. But I mean, you fucking get in there, aren't you? With what we won 9, we've lost 9 out of our 15. Is it? I think that's the record, something like that. Someone's saying there, will United finish top 10? Yeah, I don't even know why I was going to question that. Yeah, of course we will. I don't think we'll finish top 4, top 5 now. It is, isn't it? I think we'll probably finish 7th or 8th, judging off our form at the moment. And even maybe that'd be fucking an achievement in itself. Marshall's game gone by the end of the season. His contract is up. I can't read that because there's a 1-year bonus. Listen, when you talk about Saudi, I asked James about this last night. The players, Rafael Varane, Anthony Martial, Jadon Sancho, Casemiro, all these guys could potentially move on in January or the summer. And Saudi's obviously a big attraction for players who want a big contract. And if you think about the wages just involved in that on its own, Jadon Sancho's on 350 grand a week. Anthony Martial's on 250 grand a week. Anthony's been mentioned as well. He's on 200 grand a week. Like, these are big, big wages. Varane, 300 grand a week. Casemiro, 300 grand a week. A lot of money. And then there's logistics with the contract and who's going to pay what and blah, 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 and all this kind of. But Saudi have got fucking buckets of money, haven't they? So, I don't know. Apparently Scholes is favourite to be next manager. Nah, not a chance. Do you see him at Oldham? Nah, not a chance. Simon Davis says 7th max in regards to the league position. I think that's probably fair. Jay McGrogan says we get big money from the Saudi for those 4. We probably would, to be fair. But then you had that story in the last window, didn't you, where was it a Saudi team saying we've got no money or we can't afford the transfer? And I was scratched there thinking, these teams are paying like Jordan Henderson 700 grand. Jadon Sancho has more talent in his fucking pinky than Jordan Henderson. So if you're paying Jordan Henderson 700 grand a week, surely you can afford Sancho's wages. Maybe it's just that specific team. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure most of the teams are connected to Saudi royalty, aren't they, or some form of way in terms of the state. So, yeah, I do think we can get money for them. And to be honest, I'd probably, if I'm the club now and I'm Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in with Ineos and I'm looking at certain contracts and players that we need to move on and who the manager wants gone, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking they're probably the right players to go, including Anthony. You know, even if you get big money for Anthony, and look, people can clip me up for this, but Anthony's been shit since he's come in. 85 million quid, no way near that. I mentioned Doku before, cost him like 45 million. I think, for City. That's recruitment. That's recruitment at its finest. It hit the ground running, perfect. And 21 years old, same age as Anthony. Anthony just is like the opposite of him, just not direct at all, doesn't run at his man, doesn't put a cross into the box. It's just so bizarre to me. And that's what happens when you let a manager be in charge of recruitment. We need elite specialists at the top. And on this new video that we've done, Ineos 10-step plan, which will be dropping next week, I think, because it'll be dropping around the time the news gets announced. We talk about Jean-Claude Blanc, I think his name is, who was a CEO, director of sport at Juventus during the tough times, and was at PSG for like 12 years, winning over 50 trophies and stuff. Like, they're hiring the right people. Paul Mitchell and Jean-Claude. I keep going to say Jean-Claude Van Damme, and people keep saying that. But these are the right people. Get experts in the position. Don't have the manager doing here, there, everything. It's not that. We're not in that era anymore. I know Fergie did that when he was in charge, but it's different now. You need elite specialists in every position, from nutritionists to chef to CEOs to sporting directors to absolutely everything, just in my personal opinion. So I'm not as excited as some of the lads on the channel for this Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because there's still no clarity as to what that will offer in as a total. I'm willing to be patient, even though we've had 10 years of just utter chaos and horrendous recruitment. But I think the two names that are being mentioned with Paul Mitchell and Jean-Claude Blanc are two people at the very top when it comes to, sporting matters. So I think once you start to improve performances on the pitch, other things will start to come naturally then. I'm hoping so anyway, because we're living on a prayer at the minute. Like Bon Jovi, you're bloody living on a prayer. So yeah, how are we all feeling about this this Luton game? Talk to me. Are you confident? Do you think we'll smash them? Do you think Luton are gonna get the better of us? Talk to me. Let's read out some chats. You're not getting any money for any big money for Anthony. You're probably right. Anthony needs to go. Thoughts on Rafa Benitez rumours taking over Ten Hag? Absolutely not. Rafa Benitez, mate. People are losing their heads if you think fucking Rafa Benitez is going to manage. You talk about boring football. Jesus Christ. You have 10 men behind the ball and Højlund trying to counter. Nah. Don't want to see none of that business, mate. No. Rafa, keep fucking the Spanish fat controller away from my club. I want to see none of that shit. Simon Davis saying 2-1 to Manchester United. I think my predictions... I'll save my prediction for the preview when we do that at... what time are we doing the preview now? 5 o'clock, I think it is. So, want to see a lot of crosses into the box for Højlund to jump on. Well, you saw when you provide him service, McTominay, first 2 minutes of the Copenhagen game, give him the ball, feed him, he will score. Simple as that. What did Fergie say about Van Persie? If you don't find him on the pitch, you're not playing, mate. Find him, he will score. He's got the pace to get him behind. He's got the poacher's instinct, which is always nice to see. And I've always said this about Højlund. If you put him in a settled team right now, if you put for him in Arsenal's team or City's team or anything like that, he'd be in double figures now. I'm absolutely convinced of it. He's a top scorer in the Champions League in this team. The way we're performing. So that tells me everything I need to know about him. I think he's a really promising talent. But again, you have that situation where he starts to become a product of the environment. You drag them down to your level. Who remembers Bruno Fernandes's first season, how fucking good he was? And now you look at him now, like, he's not bad, but he's fell off a little bit, hasn't he? I think that's fair to say. So I just don't want players being dragged down to that level. And I think there's a huge need for a significant shift with everything from Ten Hag and above. Ten Hag, there'll be questions there. Results will dictate his future ultimately. I believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a fan of him, and they want to keep him on, and they want to see how it goes. But then if the manager's views don't align with the sporting director, and there's a bit of confusion there, you need cohesion from the top all the way down. And if we don't have that, it gets a bit worrying. You want to see all the players work hard. That is what is required. End of story. Mindset. 100%, Simon. Always with the smart comments. All United players are not good enough. I won't say all of them. I'd say a big chunk of them are not, to be honest. And it's crazy because who remembers Ragnick when he's in that press conference and he's saying, open heart surgery, you probably need 5 to 6 to 8 to even 10 players. 2 or 3 transfer windows can sort this. And we've got rid of quite a few players since Ten Hag has come in. And it still feels like we need to get rid of like 10. That's the crazy thing. It still feels like, you could probably get rid of Varane at this point. It seems like he's going to go. You look at Eriksen's now, like, they're important players. I don't mind him as a bench player, but I don't think Eriksen should be starting, in my opinion. He's starting now because he's the only footballing brain, really, in that midfield who can control the game. But, he wouldn't start for City every game, would he, Christian Eriksen? He wouldn't start for Arsenal every single game. So, and then you got other players, Sancho, Martial, Anthony, even though we just signed him last year for a big amount of money. I don't think Ten Hag will sign him. There's loads. There's just loads who were kind of sat there earning fucking big bucks. So let's talk about Ten Hag subs. I'm more than open to talk about that because the weird thing is, excuse me, the weird thing is with Ten Hag subs. Last season, he was absolutely spot on with a lot of them. Go back to the Manchester Derby, go back to the Liverpool game, go back to any of them. He made in-game decisions which made us win. And there is an interview with Steve McLaren where he's talking about this when he was on the come up and Ten Hag was his assistant manager at Go Ahead Eagles or Utrecht, I think it was. He was talking about how Ten Hag had the ability. He would just look at him and he'd go, "What now, Erik? Like, what should we do?" And he'd go, "Right, go to our man-to-man marking system, bring this guy in at right back, do this, blah, 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 tweak this," and they'd go on to win the game. Like, this is evidence. He's very, very good at that. For some reason this season, some of the subs he's made, you're scratching your head, you're thinking, why the fuck has he done that? The Mason Mount one for Højlund against Copenhagen, and maybe you can argue legs, whatever. A little bit weird, but okay. The Amrabat one in the Derby was risky as fuck, taking him off and putting Eriksen again in that 6 or McTominay or whoever it was. And then his other ones, which I probably can't remember off the top of my head, where you just sat there questioning, you going, what's happening here? Do you remember when Sociedad last year when he put, was it Maguire up top? And you're like, wow, this guy is just risky, mate. Really, really risky. But I think it's just a case of fucking, I don't know. United as a whole. Appreciate your honesty here. You got to be honest as a United fan, haven't you? You got to call a spade a spade. You got to talk about what you see. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We've been shit this season. The manager's to blame for some of it. The players are definitely to blame for a lot of it, and everything that's going on behind closed doors with the Glazers and the sporting directors and Ineos Sporting Control, blah, blah, blah. That has to have an effect. Think anyone who's in this chat right now who has a job, right? Maybe you don't have a job, but you've probably worked a day in life before. And if something's going on at your workplace where it's just the bosses are kicking off, you don't know if it's going to be taken over or not, new investments, new managers coming in, certain players, like, your head would be fried, wouldn't it? You can't tell me you'd have 100% focus on a game when that amount of shit is going on, especially as a manager. Ten Hag's had to deal with, a list of things at this point when we go through them. The De Gea contract situation, the Maguire captaincy media blow up, the Ronaldo situation, Mason Greenwood, Anthony's domestic violence thing, the Glazers selling the club, probably a lot of other stuff I've completely forgot about. So that's the reason why I have sympathy for him. It's not making excuses for him. It's just I feel like anyone in that position would struggle. I think you bring in any manager in world football under this regime and they would struggle. And we've said this, for so long. So, look, this was the press conference reaction, but we've obviously gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole there. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Not as many people on the live as I thought on YouTube. Usually these press conference reactions got quite a lot of people in the chat and discussing the game and stuff, but it is what it is. Maybe everyone's out on the piss. I don't know. But I will leave it at that. If you don't follow us on TikTok, please do. People obviously who are in the chat right now, and drop us a follow on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the channel. We had James on last night from the Muppeteers. Very insightful on transfers and Ineos in terms of taking over Manchester United. We had the pros and cons drop for the Copenhagen game, so make sure you check that out. We've got the preview at 5 o'clock. And we've also got loads of other shit dropping over the weekend as well. So please do subscribe to Real Reds Talk, as you can see there. This one, the link is in the bio. And for people in YouTube, you already know where we're at. So enjoy your weekend, everyone. And we'll see you for the preview at 5 o'clock, yeah? Adios, people. Legends.